Hey guys, welcome back to Chainsaw for Beginners by Beginner. This is part 2 of the episodes I wanted to make. We're going to be going over tools, the questions you may have about those that I've seen. We're going to be going over woods, the questions I've seen about those. So stay tuned, it's coming at you right now. It's time to get to work. First off, let me go ahead and say, you don't have to have tools if you don't want to. Tools are, in my opinion, they are an edge, especially when you're first starting off. They're an edge to get you a little bit further until your experience builds up. Hopefully you understand it. And that's not all they're used for. I mean, you can go into, different details you want to accomplish, different things that you may not be able to accomplish with the chainsaw, but you want to see that on your piece of art. So that's why people get tools. When I got tools to give me that edge to get past my barriers. They pushed me a little bit further into things that I wasn't able to accomplish with a chainsaw just yet. I didn't want to make certain cuts and take certain risks with a chainsaw. So then I would get a smaller tool, something that was more manageable for me to push me a little bit further of how I thought I wanted my piece of art, my carving to go. So that's why I like tools. I don't mind them one bit. I think they're useful. But let's just get to the basics. You don't have to have tools. If you just want to use a chainsaw, use a wire brush to sand it out, finish it out, to take off some rough edges, and a torch, you can do that. Chainsaw, fire, wire brush, bam, your carving's done. If you don't want to go to any tools, I'm just gonna say that right now. You don't have to do that at all. It's whatever you want your carving to come out looking like. But we're going to jump in. Have a frog in my throat. We're going to jump into some of the tools that I use. Some of the ones that I lean on lean on a lot, and then go into some that I don't use as much, but I still find that are pretty helpful. Okay. Usually start off with my chainsaw, do my carving, and then most time I'm going to jump into a die grinder. Come up with different type of bits. The Sabertooth makes some, Cutsaw makes some. You can find a bunch off of Amazon. That's one of my detailing things that I use. I use it around for maybe the mouth, maybe at the base, things like that. I think the die grinder, you don't have to get an expensive one. This one came from I believe Harbor Freight, and it works. You can go for expensive, whatever brand you want to go with. I like them. Keep moving on. Die grinders. Now there is different type of burrs you can get to accomplish different type of looks that you're wanting to accomplish, but I find it handy to punch in some of the details that I just can't grab with the chainsaw. Or something that like if I'm going around the eyes, when I first started off I'd get very timid, so I would grab a burr and finish out around eyes of animals and around the mouths and stuff like that. That way I just didn't I didn't tear up my carving. In my mind, I didn't want to tear it up. So that's why I was leaning on a lot of things like that, but they're very helpful to accomplish some of the things that you can accomplish. I think, if I was going to grab my first tool, besides, chainsaw, fire, and a brush, I would be looking at probably a die grinder. That would probably be one of my first ones I'd be looking at. Don't have to be expensive, just a die grinder. Second thing, you'll see a lot of guys doing power carvings and stuff with a Dremel or a rotary tool. Doesn't have to be Dremel. There's cheap ones on Amazon. A lot of guys use them. You can find them in some of the videos that I put down on the links. Hopefully you got to see those guys. Yeah, there's all kinds of different attachments with these. Like I have a whole cookie tin box, or a cookie tin full of different attachments. Not full, but ones that I thought would be helpful to what I needed to do. I only use maybe like 2 or 3 different ones. Like I use hope you can see that, it's kind of like a cutter, a wood cutter, and it burns in while it cuts. I do like that. I have one that's kind of like in an oval shape, and I was going to show you the other one I have, and it's a Cutsaw teardrop. Yeah, like a Cutsaw teardrop. And this is kind of nice just to get around some of the other little details around the face, around the eyes, around the mouth. Something where I don't want to use, where I want to go even lighter than the die grinder. I'm going to go down to the rotary tool, something that has a little bit less power, that I can be a little bit more detailed. Some guys rely on them a lot, some don't even touch them. So whatever you want to do. From there, I didn't even tell you the most important tool that I use. The most important tool that I always grab first, before even a chainsaw, is a tape measure and then something to write on it with. I usually have a pencil, because pencils come off pretty easily, especially with a little bit of sandpaper. You can take a pencil off. But then I also grab a marker. If I know I'm going to be taking off a lot of the outside woods, you know, a big top marker is pretty handy. You know, if you didn't have anything else, definitely have a pencil, a marker, and a tape measure. You don't have to have tape measure. I'll use tape measure on, like, you know, trying to make sure the ears are pretty close to the same spot. You know, I try to find the middle, and I do a little bit of measuring on height. You know, I'm like, hey, how tall you want something if I'm making something for somebody, and that's why I use it. I mean, but it gets used almost on every single carving, even when I'm getting woods, you know, to make carvings. Tape measure gets used. Pretty handy. Have 2 or 3 around, cheap ones. You don't have to get anything expensive, because I can't tell you how many tape measures and markers and pencils I have lost in that sawdust pile. I probably have a gold mine of tape measures, pencils, and markers out there in that sawdust. I can't find them anymore. They just disappear. The biggest thing that disappears, and kids grab them left and right, and I don't know why. I don't know where they're taking them. One day, they're gonna show me. Yeah, anyways, moving on, because we're gonna try to make this a shorter video. And I know I may be flying through these things, but these are things you will have to learn how to use. You're gonna have to learn what style you're gonna be using them in, what manner, I guess would be able to say. And these are things that you're gonna have to be safe with on your own. You know, these aren't things I can show you or put the time in for you to have you bring out the details you want. These are trial and error. You may not like what a certain bird that you just spent 15 bucks on does. You may have to find something else. You may depend on it for everything. Just whatever. There is no, like I said, there's no rules with chainsaw carving. No rules. Yes, I said it. There's no rules. So these are just the things I use. I don't have any real high-end brand stuff. You know, die grinder, cheap. I do like to get decent burrs. I do like to do that. I found that the cheap ones don't work as well. I will spend some money on some burrs. I will do that. On attachments for your Dremel. Another tool that a lot of people have asked, hey, what are you using for eyes? A lot of guys use them, especially on simpler carvings. And since I'm a beginner still, I have not mastered making eyes yet. I know, I have not done it. So I have I'm gonna tell you what it is, because I currently don't know. I think Sabertooth maybe makes some, and Mampa tools. They are the eye cutters, and they come in a pack of like 5 or 6. You can get them in a set, and that's what I burn in the eyes with. I put it inside my die grinder and burn the eyes. So you'll just have to learn how to do that, use that tool. You know, you can see, I guess, see videos on it. You've seen me use it in my videos, and a lot of other guys have used them. But that's pretty handy on with your eyes. And then I'll usually come back with the Dremel and dress them up a little bit, you know, make them not look so cookie cuttered. You understand what I'm saying whenever you use it. They look really stamped out. Some carvings can get away with it, some can't. If you're using a lot of details and then you got these cookie cuttered eyes, you may want to follow up with a rotary tool of some type and soften up, you know, that imprint that these cutters use. Hopefully that makes sense. Moving on the tool selection. I do use grinders. This one just has like a flap sand, like a true flap disc on it. These hang out for quite a while. This is like something I grab when I want to like smooth out bases. You could come over top and soften up your carving a little bit. I've seen guys do that with these. They usually do them with like the standard like round discs. They don't use these type, because this can get pretty abrasive. This will really remove some wood once you touch it, and you may take off too much with it, but you get them in different grits and stuff like that. So that's pretty handy. Most stuff I find on Amazon, or I go for the cheap of the cheap. Yeah, that's just me. You know, nothing special nothing special grinder. I'll put my handles and stuff on it most of the time, but nothing special there. I smooth out my bases, do a couple other things that I think may be worth it. I have another grinder with a cuts-all shaping disc. Sabertooth makes them too. I'm not recommending brands on them. Whatever you feel like you can get your hands on, and whatever is better. I would tell you these bad boys take off a lot of wood, So they add a lot of detail. They take off a lot of wood as well. I found that it's been pretty nice. I've enjoyed it, but I don't use it that much. I will tell you that. It's not the first thing I would go out and grab, because unless you're trying to make something really smooth or just dig out and start on your bases. I use it for the bases sometimes, but I don't grab it a lot. So just keep that in mind. I use my sander a little bit more than I use that one, just because I don't usually need to take off that much wood. Or now if you were making bowls or something, I can see that. Another one that you do see me use a lot is a finger sander. This is one that I leaned on a lot probably about 6 months ago, because you can get up and do a lot of details with like on the faces. You know, you can put that furring in on the faces with this once you get the hang of it. It does take you a minute to get the angles right and things like that, but a finger sander, I found it pretty helpful. This is the Makita brand. I know there's some others, Milwaukee or whatever, they may have one. Sandpaper seems to last for quite a while. Depends on how hard you're using your edges on it. But I've enjoyed it. I use this one quite a bit, but it's held up quite a bit too. So I have no reservations about getting this one again for sure. Sorry, my camera was acting silly there for a second. For some reason it was shut off. Anyways, like I was saying, I like this one. It's good. You can get a lot of details in areas that you may not be able to reach with the chainsaw. That'd be the best way to put it. If you can't reach it with the chainsaw, but you still need to fur it, that's where this would come into play. Or you could use your small rotary tool and get in there with one of those smaller cutter bits and do some detailing that way. So I showed you that sander. The last sander that I do use is just on a cheap drill. It's the it is the Sandoflex. If you've seen my review on the Sandoflex flap sander, I guess you would say. This isn't one I would go out and buy first, and yes, I do use it and I do think it's helpful. I don't know. Sandpaper wears out too quick, I think. It seems like it's just disappears. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. It just, as soon as I start touching stuff. Now maybe on your softer woods it stays around for a while, it knocks off good. Harder woods, it disappears. I am gonna tell you that. I'm in Kentucky, we use a lot of harder woods, so that's all that is about that. I do use it, I like it, but you can make your own like flap disc and stuff like that. Yeah, Kyle Hall, I think he's on one of my channels, or one of the channels I put down in the last one. He has a tutorial on how to make them on the flap disc. Check that video out. That's pretty much on tools. You just gotta see where you want to go with them, what style, what you can afford. I don't want to go in too heavy on them because I haven't scratched the surface on what guys use. I just know that this is kind of my arsenal that I go to, and I may pick up on a different thing. You know, I haven't used the gouges yet. I haven't used any of the Arbortech stuff. Manpa makes some things that I would like to use, and I just haven't done it yet. One day I'll get there, but you know, I want to keep on mastering things with a chainsaw, but I also like to use my tools when I would need to use them, and when I'm looking for certain effects that I can't get with the chainsaw, you know. So that's why I use tools, and that's why I'm sure you're looking at different tools to use. But if you like to lean on them, lean on them. I lean on them at times. There's like, man, I'm not going to touch this section of the face with this chainsaw right now. You know, I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go grab my Dremel. I'm going to grab my rotary tool. I'm going to grab my die grinder with the burr, and I'm going to finish it out. Play it safe. That's perfectly fine. You play it safe. That's all there is to it. Some guys get really upset, like, oh man, chainsaw carvers don't use tools. Okay. But you know, I understand that if you want to say that, but in my opinion, chainsaw carving is art. You know, it's something that not everybody can accomplish. It's something that everybody can do, and certain things turn out better than other things. And if you're at a certain point in level that you want to keep moving forward, but you're just not there yet with your chainsaw, you know, because chainsaw's a tool too, there's other tools that can help push you further to get the results that you're wanting quicker. That's what I look at tools for, to get different results, maybe at a quicker pace. Yeah, we'll go with that. I'm not against using tools. So if you need to use tools, use tools. Don't worry about it. You know, block it out with your chainsaw, grab your grinder, grab your rotary tool, grab your whatever. Finish it out if you need to. Your skills will progress. I promise. They will progress. You know, you just keep doing it. You keep learning. You keep pushing further with whatever you want to push to turn out whatever you want to turn out. It's your stuff, nobody else's. So if you need to grab your die grinders, you need to grab your flap sanders, you need to grab your finger sanders, your everything, grab them. You know, there's no reason not to, in my opinion. Or you can not use any of it and just go with chainsaw, whatever you want to do. You don't have to listen to me. I've already told you that before. All right, we're gonna wrap it up on tools because there's too many different brands. Some work better than others, some don't. I recommend going cheap at first until you start finding that you really like it, or it's a tool that you really depend on, like, you know, like a die grinder or a rotary tool or sanders, whatever. Until you really think you're going to really depend on that tool, maybe try to go cheaper unless you just already have them. The attachments, they make anything and everything, so just keep that in mind. I do go a little bit higher end on my burrs. I do like my eye cutters, you know, just because I'm not a pro at making eyes, and then there's some things you make that just don't need fancy eyes. That's why. All right, but that's all for the tool talk on tools. So I guess the only question, did I answer anything? You know, what tools you're going to use? I don't know, man. It's up to you. It's up to you. I like first tools. I think if I had to put my non-professional opinion, would be, I would say a die grinder or a rotary tool. I feel like the sanding, you could just get some sandpaper and knock off edges with that. If you had to, you could make your own if you needed to. I would go with either a rotary tool. I'd probably start off with the rotary tool first. Pretty common, pretty cheap. You can find the whole kits on them on Amazon. And then probably go with the die grinder and then start investing in some decent burrs and attachments for both the rotary tool and grinder. But see how far you get, you know, see what you like to use. You may not even like either one of them. That's why I'm saying go cheap. And then until you find you're like, man, I've been using this thing heavy for 6 months, I'm starting to have problems, then maybe bump up your brands if it's turning out good for you. Okay? All right, that's all I got. That's all I got on tools. Maybe it helps you, maybe it doesn't. Hopefully it does. Let's go jump over to woods. Let's go answer some wood questions. As you can tell, we're outside in my little wood shop area. This is where I keep everything. This is where, you know, this is my wood pile. My wood pile, okay? Everybody has something a little bit different. Sorry, you're just gonna have to ignore these big trucks that come around. Everybody's gonna have something different. It just depends on what size of area you have and on where you keep your woods. If you have something to cover them, if you don't have something to cover them, if you have a small place to put them, you may only be able to get a couple logs at a time. But you do see a lot of questions on woods. You know, what type of woods do you use? How do you store them? Which way do you store them? Do you put anything on them when you store them? I want to answer some of those real quick. On the woods, what woods to use when chainsaw carving? This is a loaded question. I know this is a very big loaded question. This all depends on where you live, on what type of woods you can get, what's available to you. If you have resources around, like say you living in town and you may not know anybody, you know, you're just jumping in this, but you want to get into it, you know, so and so cut down a tree, they gave you a couple logs, can I use this? First on that, on woods, don't worry about what you're using at first, okay? That's pretty simple. Don't worry about what you're using at first. A lot of people say free wood is the best wood. I agree with that to an extent. Free wood is the best wood as long as it's something that is going to work for you, and the sizes that's going to work for you. You know, the two biggest things I would check that matters on free wood. I would not grab this. I would not be taking any free wood home with me that is rotted to where you can't cut it out. Okay, if it's rotted, just leave it. Don't think about trying to, well, I could do this or do that, unless it's just something that's just gonna inside your mind that you're gonna use for your art piece. I would just leave it. Okay, it's just not worth it. Most time it's rotted all the way through. You don't know. If you think it's a problem, or if you're having reservations about anything that looks too rotted, too wet, too deteriorated, too crumbly, just leave it. just leave it. The second thing, bugs. If it's full of bugs, leave it. You don't want bugs coming back to your house, to your wood pile, even though, yeah, it's free. I mean, you may be able to get away with it, especially if you take them off, away from your wood pile and stuff, because summertime heat, humidity, plus bugs, dead wood, you're gonna get bugs in it regardless. But if you can keep some away from your house, that would be better. If it's full of termites, things like that, just leave it. You don't want it. It's not gonna help you in the long run. It's gonna make things worse for you because you're bringing termites and bad bugs over to your other wood piles, and you'll have more problems later on. So I would not, on free wood, make sure it's good, clean, looks awesome. If as far as you know it looks good, go ahead and grab it. Go ahead and grab it. Well, this is my wood pile. I'm gonna show you. Nothing fancy. I have some free pallets. Yeah, on the ground. I am covered. I do have something covered on them. And they are, for the most part, I got some on that backside that may get an hour or two of sunlight. I think I answered like 4 questions right there. Do you keep them on the ground? Do you not keep them on the ground? I like to keep mine off the ground. I think, there's always going to be moisture in the ground. So if you can keep them off the ground, that moisture is not going into your wood. I do like to keep them covered. As you can tell, I have a covering over top of them. That keeps the rain and stuff off of them. Some guys may not have this. I don't think you have to have any of these things to really do it. Some people just grab logs that's been sitting outside forever and go to town. And you may have wood species that work that way for you. I do not. Wood species around here, whenever they lay on the ground, they start rotting quick, bugs get them quick, and they disappear and deteriorate, and they go down really quickly. Like I said, I don't have cedars, redwoods. I don't have woods that have natural immunities to bugs and the elements. Yeah. So anyways, that's my setup on it. Keep them off the ground. I do have them up and down right now. And I started doing that probably about a month or 2 ago. Usually I would just toss them all over here in the pile on top of the pallets and then work my way through them. I think I did this kind of more for organization, but it does seem, for some reason, I think it's helped out with them drying. I'm noticing that they're not splitting as much, and I was able to save some room. And I've read forums and stuff and the other people where they do put them up and down, and it helps the moisture go down because wood, straight up anyways, and then the veins or whatever, it allows the moisture to help drop out of them quicker. I don't know if any of that's true. All I know is that I put them up and down, save some room. I'm able to see what I have a lot easier versus a big pile. I don't know. Yeah, that works. Moving on. I do have some slabs and stuff over here. I just got them running up and down. Usually I would put them, this was a room thing. Usually I would stack them and try to dry them out a little bit to where they were stacked, and you put your spacers in between them, to try to keep them from bowing and stuff and allow air to get through them, airflow. I just put these up on the side. They seem to be holding up pretty well because these are wet slabs. I've answered some of the questions, I think. I feel like I've answered some questions here on how do people store things. I won't really reiterate a bunch of that, I don't think. But I feel like my setup's working. One big lesson I learned when I first started getting logs, I piled them all outside in the sun, put them on some pallets, and they were exposed to elements. Every one of those logs that I had, they were all smaller pieces. They all cracked severely. It did have to do with some of the wood species I was using, but they severely cracked. Molds built up on them quick, and I had problems with them. I pretty much wound up just put them in the burn pile. So keep them out of the sun. That will keep them from splitting as hard because you got that super heat on the outside and the inside's still wet. Okay, the outside dries out, shrinks the wood pops open. That's how you get your crack. You keep them in the shade, that can't happen as quickly. They will crack, yes, but it does not happen as quickly. I feel like I have a whole lot better results with my wood staying in better shape with them staying out of the sun. Okay, they are in a dry space. They don't get moisture on them hardly. I say hardly, I can't keep all the rain every once in a while, but they dry out quicker, it seems like, and it seems like it's working out for me a whole lot better. That's for me. Yeah, that's how I store them. Every once in a while,
Like if I get some logs that I know I'm definitely going to be using, and just not like logs just to have sitting around, I will take like a close to a 50-50 mix, maybe a little bit more heavier on the I take boiled linseed oil and paint thinner, almost 50-50, but sometimes I go heavier on the linseed oil, and that seems to be one that helps keep the, you know, you go 50, you do split up the ratio. It allows one for the boiled linseed to soak in a little bit better, but you're also getting your product, your boiled linseed oil, to push a little bit further. And you could use almost, I've read where people just use like a latex paint on top of their logs, on each end of the log, and that will help slow down the release of moisture, supposedly slow down the release of moisture outside of logs. But it does seem, I've noticed that it seems to help, not on all of them, but it has seemed to help generally overall on my logs splitting and cracking and checking more severely. Yeah, it's minimized it. So the moisture doesn't release out as quick. Now, as far as I am not, as you can tell, the bark's on these. I don't have a debarker. I don't want to sit out here for hours with a chainsaw going running up and down, taking this bark off, which I could. I know you can get a spud, you can get all kinds of different things. I'm not running into any issues too much with bugs and moisture hiding behind this bark, because one, I do have the ends exposed in a dry area, so the moisture is able to escape. I'm just not doing that. If I knew these were probably going to be staying around for years, and I had some specialty log that I paid a bunch of money for, you know, some high-end wood, this is all freebie stuff. You know, this isn't anything I paid for, so I'm not going to take the time to take the bark off. A lot of people do. If I had to set them out more in the elements, I probably would. If I only had that one carving I was going to do a month, and that wood was, I had to have it, then I may do it. Or if it was like iffy, you know, you were kind of iffy on it, maybe I would do that too. Like if it had bugs or already had a little bit of rot in one area but not in the other, you know, then I may do that. But right now I'm not. I feel like I go through wood pretty quickly, that I will get to it within a manageable time of having the bark on, and then sooner or later it'll fall off anyways, because your wood shrinks and bark doesn't shrink as much, and blah 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 blah. Yeah. So yeah, you can seal the ends of the wood. Some people use paint, things like that. Yeah, this is my setup. Put them on pallets, keep them dry, keep them out of the sun, and you should have very good luck with your logs. On the types of wood to use, let's cover that real quick. This is going to depend on your area, what area you live in, because that'll determine what species of trees grow in your area. We all don't have the same type of trees that grow in every different area of wherever you're at. Just the way it is. So you have to learn to use what you use in your area, unless you're going to pay to get that log. If you have to pay a lot for a log for a customer or something, that's fine. You know, you just have to find it and pay for it, and, you know, transfer that over to the customer and let them know, like, hey, you're wanting this, I'm going to have to pay for it, I don't have it, blah, blah, blah. That's later on, maybe part 3, we'll discuss things about that. But, yeah, free wood, it's awesome. Especially if you know the species, look it up, do your research, get resources, get online, get tree books. You can get apps to find out what trees, especially if you can get a hold of leaves from that tree. You know, take a picture of those leaves and find out, oh, this is an ash or a poplar or an oak, or, you know, some type of cedar, you know, whatever. And then you can look up, once you find out the species of that tree, then you can look up, hey, how much is this going to crack? Does this split worse than others? Do people use this for furniture and carvings and whatever? That's how I started off with woods. You know, like when I'm sitting, everybody's watching TV, I'm over here, wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, looking up trees. So, that's the things I do. So keep that in mind. Maybe that'll help you out. There's apps on your phone. There's all kinds. You can get tree books. Man, there's all kinds, and that'll help you. Finding out what trees will help you in your area. It will help you, I promise. Because there's certain trees that do certain weird things that other trees don't do. You may be thinking, oh, I carved into this last time, I definitely don't want to use that hard of a wood. for your equipment. You know, you may not want to use too soft of a wood. It's a loaded question, and it's going to have to be based off where you live, and it's going to have to be based off your information on, you know, what type of species and things on like that, because you can ask that question all day long on the internet. Everybody's going to say free wood. Free wood is very nice, but make sure you know you're getting something. I try to go for rot free wood, and I try to go for, you know, bug free, you know, heavy bugs that you can at least notice. Everything's going to have something in it. But remember, unless somebody was just getting a tree out of their way, that tree came down for something. So either it came down because it rotted somewhere, maybe hit by lightning, I don't know, or there was some type of bugs that helped decay it in a section, made it fall over on its own. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Certain growths of trees, of how old they are, will determine how hard it is in the center of the trees. So especially with your harder woods, you know, versus that's all I got to tell you about hardwoods. I mean, we don't have a lot of soft stuff here. We do, but it's not that common, I guess. And they say, you know, well, which soft or hard? Soft woods are easier to carve. You'll find that out. Your chains will like it better. You'll like it better, but then you may not like the results you get. You may not like the results you get afterwards. You know, it may not be a wood that, you know, leaves a lot of details in it. It may be really soft, where as soon as you hit it with the sander, you just lost all your furring almost. Or it may be so hard, like your oaks and things like that, that it's like, man, I can't sand this thing hardly enough to get some of these sharp points out of it, you know. And it's just things you learn. Things you learn as you go. You just got to keep digging into it, find out what woods you like and which ones that'll suit your needs, ones that don't crack as much, and you know. But caring for your logs is important. Setting them out and leaving them in rain and water and things like that, that's going to hurt you in the long run. You're going to wind up throwing things away, and then you spend a lot of time getting this wood at your house that you're just winding up tossing. So if you can find a tarp and if you can keep the water off of it some way, that helps. Keep the sun. The sun is worse than water, so you know, keep that in mind. Keep it out of the sun, you're doing a whole lot better. That's all I'm going to talk about woods. That's going to be, you know, like I said, that's just my wood pile. Nothing fancy. Out of the sun, out of the weather for the most part. I do try to seal up higher end stuff. You know, I do have these logs over here. They're on a trailer right now, but they're in the shade for the most part. The sun's not getting a chance to superheat them up and split them up. I got this big log. This is definitely going to be a 6-foot bad boy on something. Kids say one thing, I say another. It's going to be for myself all through that video. I'm thinking of Bigfoot myself. A Bigfoot. Anyways, we're going to wrap up this video. It's been a good day. It's been a good day. I feel like I've accomplished the video of part 2. Part 3 will come out here soon. I'm going to let this one stay out for a little bit. Part 3 will be going over... Crap, what did I tell you in the beginning of part 1? I think we're going to go over like how, you know, on like some cracks and stuff like that on how to fix. I do have a video on that, and there's a lot of other videos on cracking and how to fix them. So it'll be a bunch of smaller things putting together that kind of wrap up everything. Oh, we're going to do cracks. We're going to do sealers. Talk about that, on how to seal your wood and your carvings, and kind of like the finishing touches. You know, maybe we talked about chainsaws. We talked about some tools. We talked about some woods, how to take care of them, which ones to use. I showed you how to take care of them, but it's kind of hard to tell you which ones to use, okay? Anything and everything has been used. Use what you can get your hands on. It's going to depend where you live. Sawmills. If you feel like you need to go buy woods, I've had way better luck with small 1 to 2 man operation sawmills than I have trying to find these guys that run big volumes. The smaller small mill guys, the mom and pops, they take care of you a whole lot better. I feel like they have more time for you, especially if they have another job and they're just sawmilling on the side. They can find you things cheaper. They'll cut you what you want a little bit better, you know, because they're just trying to make extra money too and do things. So if you can find small sawmills, that would really help. That would help you out a lot, help you out in the future. They can be on the lookout for something that a customer may want something really big and you just can't get a hold of it. They should be able to at least find it for you and load. Yeah. Anyways, they should be able to at least load it up for you and put it on your trailer. Other than that, that's all about woods. That's woods. All right. Stay safe. Number 3 will come out soon. I'll leave this one out there for a little bit, give people more of a chance to get to see it. In case you have questions, you can leave them in the comments, and maybe I'll get a chance to answer them in the next one. So we'll be doing over cracks, sealers, and kind of like a lead up to the point of from carving to getting into a little bit of selling and pricing, and you know, how do you get your stuff out there if you're wanting to start selling for yourself and stuff, and not, you know, just stop making for yourself and start selling your items for yourself. We'll get into that too, a little bit. Won't go heavy because I'm, like I said, I'm not the most, I'm still beginner still, you know, it's still my first year. I'm still learning. So, but I do think I have a few points I can guide you through the rabbit hole cave. All right. Y'all have a good day. Be nice to each other. Hopefully some of this helped. Be nice to me in the comments. Don't be rude to anybody on the comments. My opinions, you don't have to use any of them. All right. You have a good day. Talk to you later. Be nice to everybody.